Ancient and Medieval Adventures Camp presents Odysseus' Journey, a tale of the Greek hero's dangerous journey home. This is the story of the hero Odysseus, a soldier who fought against the Trojans in the Trojan War. Odysseus was the king of the Greek island Ithaca, and he longed to get. The men of Ithaca sailed the rough sea for many days until they came upon the island of the Lotus Eaters. The people of this land offered Odysseus' men some of the delicious lotus. The flower made the men forget about their journey home to their families. Odysseus had to force his crew to come back to the ship and leave the island before they were stuck there forever. But they quickly came upon. Odysseus' ship arrived at the island of the giant Cyclops monsters. Cyclopes were scary giants that only had one large eye in the middle of their foreheads. The men found some sheep and goats, but unfortunately the giant Cyclops, Polyphemus, who lived in a nearby cave, had fenced them in. Odysseus and a few of his men. The monster Polyphemus soon came home, but before he could notice the men, he began his nightly chores and blocked the cave with a large rock. Suddenly, the monster spotted the small strangers that had broken. Odysseus and a few of his men escaped the monster's anger and hid, pretending to sleep, and waited until the morning to make their plan of escape. As the sun rose, the monster left to do his morning. While the monster was gone, Odysseus and his men decided it would be best to wait until nighttime while the monster was asleep to make their escape. When the time was right, Odysseus pulled out a sharp stick. They were able to leave the monstrous island at last. But Odysseus' actions against Polyphemus angered his father, Poseidon. In a fit of rage, Poseidon put a curse on Odysseus. Odysseus and his men had now become lost, but their luck only got worse. The men had visited Odysseus' friend Aeolus' island, and as they left, he gave them a gift. Odysseus and his men continued to sail, and they came upon the island of the witch, Circe. A few of the men explored the castle, and Circe welcomed them with food. As the men were eating, Circe lifted. Odysseus met with Circe and demanded to have his men turned back, and with the help of the god Hermes, Odysseus was able to save them. But it was not long before Circe put the hero under her. As the spell began to wear off, the crew realized that they must continue home, and they woke Odysseus from Circe's spell. Odysseus no longer knew which direction to go. Circe told him. Along their path to the shadow world was the home of the Sirens, which sang a song that made the men go crazy. The Sirens were strange-looking creatures that were half fish and half woman. Thankfully, the men had thought to plug their ears with wax, so they couldn't hear the Sirens sing, and safely made it through and visited the shadow world. Soon they came upon more danger, as their path crossed through the home of the large, six-headed monster Scylla and the whirlpool Charybdis. Odysseus tried to steer around the monster. Odysseus managed to steer his ship around Charybdis, almost being pulled down the large ocean drain. Odysseus made it through and eventually floated up to an island that was home to the beautiful nymph Calypso. Nymphs were much like Greek goddesses, but not as powerful and had a deep connection with. Calypso invited Odysseus into her home, and soon he had become too comfortable living with her. Before Odysseus knew it, 7 years had passed. Finally realizing how long he had been gone. At last, Odysseus found his way home. Once Penelope set her eyes upon Odysseus, she was overjoyed, as she did not believe this day would ever come. After 20 long years, all was now well within the life of Odysseus. He regained his family and his kingdom. He had made it through the dangers of both the Trojan War and his journey home. At last, the hero could live happily ever after. Thank you for listening. Adaptation created by Faith Bozer and based upon the Greek epic poem, The Odyssey by Homer.